The emergence. The silence of deep space shattered like glass. Across 17 monitoring stations scattered throughout Coalition territory, alarms screamed in perfect synchronization. Energy readings spiked beyond anything recorded in 3 centuries of galactic peace. Officers scrambled at their posts, crystalline fingers dancing across holographic controls while chittering mandibles clicked in nervous patterns. High Commander Varix pressed her 4 arms against the command console, watching the impossible unfold on her primary display. The Zephyrian's iridescent scales shifted from calm blue to alarmed orange. "Confirm those readings," she ordered, her melodic voice carrying undertones of dread. "Confirmed, Commander," replied her sensor officer, a young Fakiri whose feathered crest flattened against his skull. "Energy signature unlike anything in our databases. It's coming from the dead zone beyond the Kalos Nebula." The dead zone. No ship ventured there. No life existed in that cosmic graveyard where ancient battles had torn reality itself. Yet something massive was moving through that cursed space, heading directly toward Coalition borders. "Alert the Council," Varix commanded, "and summon Ambassador Callan. If this is first contact, we'll need our best." 3 light years away, Ambassador Callan Moore received the summons while meditating in his quarters aboard the diplomatic vessel Harmony's Voice. The Altarian's translucent skin pulsed with gentle bioluminescence as he processed the urgent message. In 400 years of service, he'd negotiated peace between warrior clans, settled trade disputes that threatened entire systems, and prevented 3 potential wars. But something about this summons felt different. Unknown contact approaching Coalition space. His aide, a nervous Vendari named Kix, chittered through the intercom. "The Council requests immediate departure for the Nexus system." Callan rose gracefully, his elongated form unfolding to its full 3-meter height. "Set course immediately." And Kix, "Prepare the first contact protocols. All of them." The journey to Nexus took 18 hours at maximum fold speed. By the time Harmony's Voice dropped from hyperspace, half the Coalition fleet had assembled. Hundreds of ships hung in perfect formation, weapons powered down but shields at maximum. They formed a wall of steel and energy between the unknown visitor and the core worlds. And there, emerging from the twisted space at the system's edge, came the impossible. The vessel defied every principle of known engineering. Where Coalition ships were smooth and organic, this thing was angular, brutal, and somehow beautiful in its stark efficiency. Matte black armor absorbed light like a hungry void. Red lines pulsed along its hull in patterns that hurt to observe directly. It moved without visible propulsion, sliding through space as if reality itself bent to accommodate its passage. "By the Ancient Ones," whispered Captain Thren of the warship Stellar Guardian, "what manner of demon have we awakened?" The unknown ship stopped precisely 1,000 kilometers from the Coalition line. Then it waited. Ambassador Callan transferred to a small diplomatic shuttle, accompanied only by 2 guards and his aide Kix. As they approached the alien vessel, every instinct screamed danger. The ship's presence felt wrong, like a predator pretending to sleep. "Ambassador," Kix's voice trembled. "The energy readings. They're shifting. The ship is." A voice cut through their communications, speaking perfect Coalition standard, despite coming from a technology they couldn't identify. "Ambassador Callan Moore of the Galactic Coalition. Permission to come aboard." The voice was deep, controlled, and unmistakably organic. Not artificial, not translated. Someone on that ship had learned their language. "Permission granted," Callan replied, suppressing his surprise. "We come in peace, seeking understanding." A section of the black hull simply opened. No visible seam, no mechanical movement. One moment solid armor, the next a gaping maw lined with pulsing red lights. The shuttle pilot hesitated. "Steady," Callan murmured. "We've come too far to show fear now." The shuttle entered the alien ship's hangar, a vast chamber that seemed to swallow light. As they landed, Callan noticed something that made his bioluminescent skin flicker. The hangar's design was functional, utilitarian, but somehow familiar, like something from ancient historical records he'd studied centuries ago. The delegation stepped onto the deck, and three figures emerged from the shadows to meet them. They walked on two legs. They had two arms. They stood roughly 2 meters tall. But that was where familiarity ended. These beings wore armor that seemed to shift and breathe, adapting to their movements. Their helmets were featureless black mirrors reflecting distorted images of the coalition delegates. The central figure stepped forward and spoke, its voice emerging from the helmet without any visible speaker. "Ambassador Callan, thank you for accepting our invitation. We are honored by this first contact," Callan began formally. "I am. We know who you are," the figure interrupted gently. "We've been watching, listening, learning." The helmet retracted with a soft hiss, revealing a face that sent shockwaves through Callan's perfect memory. Warm brown skin, black hair cropped short, brown eyes that held depths of experience no being should possess, features that matched perfectly with images from forbidden archives. "My name is Captain Sarah Chen," the human said, a grim smile playing at her lips, "and we need to talk about what your coalition did to Earth." Callan's legs nearly gave way. Behind him, kicks made a sound between a gasp and a prayer. The guards' hands moved instinctively toward weapons they'd thankfully left on the shuttle. Humans, the extinct race, the cautionary tale told to children about the dangers of hubris and violence. The species that had been wiped out over a century ago when their homeworld was glassed from orbit, their colonies systematically destroyed by coalition forces during the Great Purification. They were supposed to be dead, all of them. "Impossible," Callan whispered, his diplomatic training failing him entirely. "The records, the confirmation, you were extinct." Captain Chen's smile never wavered, but her eyes hardened like frozen earth. "Reports of our extinction were greatly exaggerated, though not for lack of trying on your part." She gestured to her companions, who removed their helmets, revealing more human faces, one pale with red hair, another dark-skinned with intricate scarification. "Humanity sends its regards to the Galactic Coalition. We've come to discuss reparations." Callan's mind raced. The extinction of humanity had been the Coalition's darkest chapter, a genocide committed in fear when humans' chaotic nature and rapid technological advancement threatened established order. But the records were clear. No human had survived the orbital bombardments, the biological weapons, the systematic hunting of refugees. How was all he managed? How did we survive? Or how did we return? Chen asked, her tone conversationally light despite the weight of history between them. "Both are excellent questions. Would you like the short answer or the long one?" The coalition must be informed. This changes everything." "Yes," Chen agreed. "It does. But first, let me show you something." She turned and walked deeper into the ship, clearly expecting them to follow. After a moment's hesitation, Callan did. What choice did he have? His guards tried to protest, but he silenced them with a gesture. If these were truly humans, if they had somehow survived and returned, then the galaxy stood on the precipice of something unprecedented. The corridors they walked through were sparse but not primitive. Technology hummed in the walls, advanced beyond anything Callan recognized. They passed windows showing glimpses of the ship's interior, vast chambers filled with equipment that defied identification, crew members moving with purpose and discipline. "Your people tried very hard to erase us," Chen said as they walked. "But humans are remarkably difficult to exterminate completely. A few ships escaped the initial attacks, found refuge in places your coalition never thought to look, places where physics gets flexible. They entered an observation deck with a massive viewport showing the coalition fleet. Chen stood before it, hands clasped behind her back. We spent a century in the dark spaces between galaxies, in cosmic anomalies where time moves differently, where desperation drives innovation, where survival demands evolution." She turned to face Callan. We're not the same humans your coalition tried to destroy. We're what survived, what adapted, what learned. What do you want? Catelyn asked, finding his diplomatic voice at last. Justice. Recognition. A place in the galaxy that was stolen from us. Chen's expression remained neutral, but energy crackled in the air around her. Some form of technology Catelyn couldn't identify. But first, we want the truth acknowledged. Publicly. The coalition committed genocide. Billions of humans died. Entire worlds burned. Catelyn's skin pulsed rapidly, a sign of extreme distress. The records, they say humanity was a threat. That you were violent, unpredictable, dangerous. We were young, Chen interrupted. Chaotic, yes. Still finding our way among the stars. But dangerous, only to those who moved against us first. She gestured to the viewport. Look at your fleet, Ambassador. Hundreds of warships ready to fire at the first sign of aggression. Who exactly is dangerous here? The question hung in the air like a blade. Catelyn thought of the 5-member species of the coalition, how they'd united in fear of humanity's rapid expansion and technological growth. How that fear had turned to paranoia, then to action. The vote had been unanimous, the execution swift and merciless. Your ship, Catelyn said carefully. Its technology is beyond anything we've seen. If you wanted revenge, we could take it, Chen finished. This vessel, which we call Prometheus, could carve through your fleet like plasma through paper. Our weapons, our shields, our engines, all products of a century of focused development by the brightest minds humanity had left. Motivated by survival, refined by necessity, perfected by rage. She stepped closer, and Catelyn noticed something impossible. The air around her seemed to bend, as if reality itself recognized her authority. But we're not here for revenge. We're here because the galaxy is vast, and holding grudges is exhausting. We want our place restored, our right to exist recognized, our dead honored. And we want the coalition to face what it did. The council will need proof, Catelyn said weakly. Evidence that you are who you claim. Chen laughed, a sound devoid of humor. Proof? Very well. She raised her hand, and the viewport changed. Instead of the coalition fleet, it showed recordings, crystal clear despite their age. Coalition ships bombing Earth, cities turning to glass, refugee vessels being hunted down, children's screams cut short by plasma fire. We saved everything, Chen said quietly. Every transmission, every image, every name, every face. 3,400,700,942 humans. That's how many died. We remember them all. The recording continued. Catelyn wanted to look away but couldn't. This was his people's darkest sin laid bare. The methodical extermination of an entire species, justified by fear and executed with terrible efficiency. Stop, he whispered. Please. The images faded, returning to the view of the fleet. Chen studied him with those impossible brown eyes. You understand now. We survived in the spaces between. In generation ships hidden in cosmic storms. In stations built inside asteroids. In places where reality breaks down and time becomes fluid. We adapted. We evolved. We prepared. For war? Catelyn asked. For survival, Chen corrected. But if the coalition chooses war, she gestured, and tactical displays appeared in the air, showing energy readings that made no sense, weapon signatures that shouldn't exist, defensive capabilities that defied physics. We're ready for that too. The weight of responsibility crushed down on Catelyn. He was no longer just an ambassador. He was a witness to resurrection, a bridge between the sins of the past and the possibilities of the future. What happens now? He asked. Now. Chen smiled, and for the first time it reached her eyes. Now you return to your fleet. You tell them what you've seen. You arrange a meeting with the full Coalition Council, and we begin discussing how to move forward together. And if they refuse, if they see you as a threat and attack, The lights in the observation deck dimmed, and for a moment Catelyn glimpsed something terrible. The true power hidden within this ship, energies that writhe like living things, technologies that touch dimensions beyond normal space. Then they'll learn why humanity survived, Chen said simply. Why we're called the persistent species, why death itself couldn't hold us. But I hope it doesn't come to that. We've all lost enough. As Catelyn prepared to return to his shuttle, his mind reeling with implications, Chen called out one more time. Ambassador, when you make your report, tell them this. We didn't return for vengeance. We returned because this is our galaxy too. We can be allies, partners in exploration and growth, or we can be the nightmare that keeps them awake. The choice is theirs. The shuttle ride back to Harmony's voice passed in tense silence. Kix huddled in the corner, occasionally whimpering. The guards stared straight ahead, processing what they'd witnessed, and Catelyn sat motionless, composing the most important report of his long career. The humans were back. The dead had risen, and the galaxy would never be the same. As they cleared the Prometheus's hangar, Catelyn turned for one last look at the impossible ship. It hung in space like a predator at rest, patient and inevitable. The Coalition fleet maintained its defensive position, but he could feel the fear radiating from every vessel. He opened a secure channel to High Commander Varix. When her orange-scaled face appeared on the screen, he spoke 4 words that would echo through history. The humans have returned. The reckoning. High Commander Varix's scales flickered through a spectrum of colors no Zephyrian had displayed in living memory. Orange fear, purple shock, white disbelief, and finally settling on deep crimson. Battle readiness. Her 4 arms moved in rapid succession across her command console as Ambassador Catelyn's report flooded through secure channels. Confirmation code Epsilon 77. Catelyn's voice trembled across the quantum link. I repeat, the humans have returned. They are alive, advanced, and await the Coalition's response. The bridge of the flagship Celestial Mandate fell into absolute silence. Officers from 5 different species stood frozen at their stations, processing the impossible. Lieutenant Thask, a young Vendari whose antennae had been twitching nervously since the unknown vessel appeared, was the first to speak. Humans, but the archives, the confirmation protocols, they were extinct. We made certain. Apparently not certain enough, Varix growled, her voice harmonizing in the way that signaled extreme stress. She opened a priority channel to Coalition High Command. Emergency session required. Classification: Omega Black. The extinct have risen. Within minutes, holographic projections of the Coalition Council materialized in the flagship's secure chamber. 5 figures, each representing their species' highest authority, flickered to life around the circular table. Their reactions to Catelyn's initial report ranged from skepticism to barely contained panic. Hierarch Zen of the Altarians pulsed a sickly yellow, his bioluminescent skin betraying his distress. This is impossible. The purification was complete. We glassed their homeworld. We hunted their colonies. We deployed the Omega pathogen. Nothing survived. Yet here they are, rumbled Forge Master Cronus of the Thrakeri, his mechanical augmentations whirring as he processed tactical data. A single ship that our sensors can barely comprehend, claiming to represent a dead species. Supreme Mediator Lissy of the Vendari clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. Perhaps they are imposters. Another species using humanity's form toe. No. Ambassador Catelyn's image appeared at the table's center, his usual diplomatic calm shattered. I stood before them, breathed their air, looked into their eyes. These are humans, evolved beyond our understanding, but undeniably human. And they have evidence of everything. He transmitted the recordings Captain Chen had shown him, the room filled with ghosts of the past, orbital bombardments turning Earth's blue oceans to steam, Coalition hunters pursuing refugee ships, entire colonies swept by engineered plagues. The systematic extermination of a species played out in horrifying detail. By the void, whispered Elder Tova of the Quellam, her crystalline form resonating with distress. We told ourselves it was necessary, that they were too dangerous, too chaotic. But this was slaughter. What's done is done, Zen said firmly, though his glow remained sickly. The question now is what they want, and how we respond. They want acknowledgement, Catelyn reported, public admission of the genocide, recognition of their right to exist. And he paused, knowing his next words would shake the foundation of everything they knew. They want their place in the galaxy restored. Forge Master Kronos' tactical subroutines were already calculating scenarios. Their technology is beyond anything in our databases. That ship's power signature alone suggests weapons that could crack planets, if they wanted revenge. They claim they don't, Catelyn interrupted. Captain Sarah Chen, their representative, spoke of moving forward, of potential alliance, but she was also clear, they're prepared for war if we choose that path. The council erupted in debate. Voices rose, harmonizing and clashing as 5 species grappled with their collective guilt and fear. Through it all, High Commander Varix maintained tactical awareness, watching the human vessel remain perfectly still amidst her fleet's defensive formation. Then something changed. The Prometheus began to move. Alert status. Varix commanded as the black ship glided forward with impossible grace. All vessels maintain position. Weapons locked but not charged. Do not fire unless fired upon. The human ship stopped precisely at the edge of optimal firing range, close enough to communicate, far enough to react. Then it did something none of them expected. It broadcast, not on military frequencies or diplomatic channels, but on every civilian network across coalition space. Trillions of beings on thousands of worlds suddenly found their entertainment feeds, news networks, and personal communications replaced by a single image. Captain Sarah Chen, standing in what appeared to be a garden. Behind her grew impossible things. Earth plants that should have been extinct. Roses and oak trees, wheat and bamboo, a living testament to survival. She wore not armor, but a simple gray uniform bearing the image of Earth as it once was, blue and green and beautiful. Citizens of the Galactic Coalition, she began, her voice carrying the weight of history. My name is Captain Sarah Chen. I speak for the survivors of humanity, a species your governments declared extinct 127 years ago. Across the galaxy, billions of beings stopped whatever they were doing. On mining colonies and core worlds, in schools and shipyards, creatures who had been taught humanity was a cautionary tale found themselves facing living proof of their society's greatest lie. We're broadcasting from the Exodus fleet, hidden in the spaces between stars where your hunters couldn't follow. For over a century, we've survived. We've adapted. We've prepared for this moment, not with weapons of war, but with truth. The image shifted, showing glimpses of humanity's hidden sanctuaries. Vast city ships drifting in cosmic storms, settlements inside hollowed asteroids, stations anchored to the event horizons of black holes where time moved differently, children learning in classrooms, scientists working in laboratories, artists creating beauty from exile. Your governments told you we were monsters, chaotic beings too dangerous to exist alongside civilized species. They told you our destruction was necessary for galactic peace. Chen's expression hardened. They lied. Now came the evidence, not the brutal recordings of genocide, but earlier footage. Humans attempting first contact, offering trade and cultural exchange. Human scientists sharing medical advances that had saved millions of coalition lives. Human artists creating works that still hung in galleries across the galaxy, credited to unknown creators. We were young, Chen continued, eager, sometimes reckless, but we were never the threat they claimed. The real threat was fear, fear of change, of competition, of losing control. So they chose genocide over growth, extinction over evolution. The broadcast showed human refugees pleading for mercy, offering to leave coalition space entirely, willing to exile themselves to the galaxy's edge. all rejected, all hunted down, all destroyed. On the Celestial Mandate's bridge, officers wept openly. Across the galaxy, civil unrest began to stir as citizens confronted the truth their governments had hidden. But Chen wasn't finished. We could have returned in force. Our technology, refined by necessity and sharpened by survival, surpasses anything the Coalition achieved in their comfortable peace. We could have sought revenge for the 3 billion dead, for our burned worlds, for our murdered children. The garden behind her shimmered, replaced by tactical displays showing the true extent of human advancement. Energy weapons that manipulated fundamental forces, shields that bent space-time, engines that folded reality. The Coalition's entire fleet reduced to obsolescence in a century of desperate innovation. But we choose a different path. We offer truth instead of vengeance, reconciliation instead of retribution, a chance to heal the wounds of the past and build something better. She stepped forward, her image filling screens across the galaxy. To the Coalition leadership, we say this: meet with us. Acknowledge the truth. Make amends. Help us reclaim our rightful place among the stars. In return, we offer our knowledge, our friendship, and our protection against the darkness that comes. The darkness. Sen muttered in the council chamber. What darkness? As if hearing him, Chen's expression grew grave. We've lived in the void between galaxies. We've seen things moving in the deep dark, ancient things that make our past conflicts seem petty. The galaxy will need all its children united for what's coming. The broadcast ended with coordinates, a neutral system where humanity waited for the Coalition's answer. Across the galaxy, the silence was deafening. Then the chaos began. On Vendari Prime, protesters surrounded government buildings demanding answers. On the Thrakeri Forge worlds, workers laid down their tools and asked how they could have built weapons for genocide. The Quellam sang mournful harmonies that shattered crystal spires in their grief. Aboard the Celestial Mandate, High Commander Verix watched her tactical displays fill with reports of civil disturbance, but her attention remained fixed on the Prometheus, which had returned to its original position and waited with inhuman patience. Commander, her communications officer reported, voice shaking. Priority message from the human vessel. Captain Chen requests direct communication. Verix straightened, her scales shifting to formal diplomatic purple. Open channel. Chen's face appeared on the main screen, no longer the terrifying armored figure Callan had first met, but somehow more unsettling in her calm humanity. High Commander Verix, thank you for your restraint. Many would have fired by now. Captain Chen, Verix replied formally. Your broadcast has destabilized the entire Coalition. Was that your intent? Truth often destabilizes lies, Chen said simply. But instability can lead to growth. Your people deserve to know what was done in their name. And now they know. The question remains, what happens next? Chen smiled, an expression that held no warmth. That depends entirely on your leaders. We've waited 127 years for this moment. We can wait a little longer for their answer, but not forever. Is that a threat? It's a statement of fact. Every day your Coalition delays is another day the truth spreads. Another day your citizens question everything they believed. Another day we demonstrate that we survived despite your best efforts to erase us. The Council's emergency session had devolved into chaos. Sen demanded immediate military action, convinced the humans were bluffing about their capabilities. Forge Master Cronus argued for negotiation, his tactical analysis showing no viable military solution. The others remained torn between guilt and fear. Ambassador Callan, still aboard his diplomatic vessel, worked frantically to establish proper channels. His reputation and career hung by a thread, but something larger was at stake. He'd looked into Captain Chen's eyes and seen not just anger, but exhaustion. Whatever the humans had become in their exile, they genuinely wanted peace. But peace required truth, and truth was proving harder for the Coalition to swallow than a century of comfortable lies. As his staff worked around him, Callan found himself studying the recordings from the Prometheus. Something nagged at him, not just the advanced technology or the impossible survival, but the way Captain Chen had phrased certain things. The darkness that comes, ancient things in the deep dark. The galaxy will need all its children. What had humanity seen in their exile? What knowledge had they gained in the spaces between galaxies where physics bent and time flowed strangely? And why did Chen seem more concerned about some future threat than the genocide of her own people? His contemplation was interrupted by an urgent alarm. Long-range sensors detected movement at the system's edge. Not one ship, but dozens. They emerged from cosmic distortions like ghosts becoming solid, each as impossible as the Prometheus. The Exodus fleet had revealed itself. City ships the size of moons. Carriers that dwarfed coalition dreadnoughts. Science vessels wrapped in energies that sensors couldn't classify. And at their center, a massive structure that defied description. Part ship, part station, part something else entirely. By the Ancient Ones, whispered Callan's aide. How many survived? The answer came in another broadcast, this time from the megastructure. An elderly human appeared, his face lined with age, but his eyes sharp with purpose. Unlike Chen's military bearing, he wore simple civilian clothes and spoke with a teacher's patience. I am Director Marcus Webb of the Terran Survival Council. I speak for 47 million human survivors spread across 18 sanctuary fleets. 47 million. The number staggered the coalition observers. They'd believed a few thousand might have escaped at most. But 47 million. Hidden for over a century. Our survival was not accidental. Webb continued. It was planned. Even as your fleets burned our worlds, contingencies activated. Arcs launched. Sanctuary protocols engaged. We knew some of us had to survive, if only to bear witness. The image shifted to show the interior of the megastructure, vast hydroponic farms, bustling cities, research facilities, schools, hospitals, an entire civilization rebuilt in exile. We've spent 127 years preparing for this moment. Not for war, though we're capable of it. Not for revenge, though we're entitled to it. But for something greater, the chance to rejoin the galactic community and face together what's coming. There it was again, the reference to some future threat. In the council chambers, even Hierarch Zen's warmongering grew quiet. Elder Tova leaned forward, her crystalline form chiming with interest. Director Webb, she transmitted directly. You speak of future threats. What have you seen? Webb's expression grew grave. The void between galaxies isn't empty, Elder Tova. Things move there. Old things. Hungry things. We've survived by learning to hide from them, but they're waking. And when they turn their attention to this galaxy, you'll need every advanced species united to have any chance at all. He shared sensor data, brief glimpses of entities that existed partially outside normal spacetime, energy signatures that dwarfed entire star systems, movement patterns that suggested intelligence vast and alien beyond comprehension. The shepherds of entropy, Webb named them. They've slept for millions of years, but our exodus disturbed their dreams. We estimate you have perhaps 50 years before they fully wake, maybe less. The Coalition Council sat in stunned silence. They gathered to address the crisis of humanity's return, only to discover a threat that made their past conflicts insignificant. Forge Master Cronus was the first to speak. If this is true, we need verification, data, evidence. Come to the coordinates we provided. Chen's voice joined the conversation. Bring your best scientists, your most sensitive equipment. We'll show you everything. But decide quickly. Every moment wasted on old hatreds is a moment lost to preparation. High Commander Varix made a decision that would define her legacy. Without waiting for the Council's approval, she transmitted new orders to her fleet. Stand down all weapons. Reduce shield strength to diplomatic levels. Signal the human fleet. We accept their invitation to talk. Protests erupted from the Council, but she cut them off. We can debate endlessly while the galaxy burns with unrest. Or we can face the truth and move forward. I choose progress over paralysis. Within hours, a joint delegation assembled. Ambassador Callan led the diplomatic team, while the coalition's best scientists prepared to verify humanity's claims about the shepherds of entropy. The meeting would take place aboard the human megastructure, now identified as Sanctuary Prime. As the coalition vessels approached the human fleet, something remarkable happened. The impossible black ships shifted formation, creating a corridor of honor. Navigation lights activated for the first time, illuminating paths between vessels. It was a gesture as old as spaceflight itself. Welcome. Captain Chen met them at Sanctuary Prime's docking bay, now wearing dress uniform that somehow managed to blend military precision with diplomatic grace. Behind her stood other human officers, their faces showing the full diversity that had once made humanity unique. Ambassador Callan, she greeted formally. Welcome to Sanctuary Prime. Welcome to what humanity became in exile. As they walked through corridors filled with impossible technology and thriving communities, Callan found himself overwhelmed. This wasn't just survival, it was transformation. Humanity hadn't just endured, they'd evolved. They entered a vast chamber where Director Webb waited with the Terran Survival Council. The walls displayed star charts showing the dark spaces between galaxies, marked with tracking data for entities that shouldn't exist. Before we discuss reconciliation, Webb began, you need to understand what we've learned. The universe is older and stranger than any of us imagined. The shepherds aren't evil in any sense we understand. They're more like cosmic janitors, clearing away civilizations that grow too large, too noisy. Our exile taught us to be quiet. Your expansion has been anything but. He showed them recordings, human scouts encountering entities that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Ships that tried to flee only to find space itself working against them. Colonies that simply ceased to exist, not destroyed but erased from reality. We developed our technology not just to survive your genocide, Webb explained, but to hide from things that make your worst weapons look like toys. And now they're stirring. Your expansion, our return. It's all adding to the noise that draws their attention. The coalition scientists studied the data with growing horror. Everything checked out. The threat was real, imminent, and beyond anything they'd prepared for. What do you propose? Elder Tova asked, her crystalline form resonating with newfound respect. Captain Chen stepped forward. Full reconciliation, public acknowledgement of the genocide, reparations in the form of territorial rights and resource access, integration of human technology and knowledge into coalition defenses, and most importantly, unity. Real unity, not just political alliance, but a merging of our capabilities for survival. You're asking us to revolutionize our entire society, Hierarch Zen protested, though his tone lacked its earlier hostility. Yes, Chen agreed, because the alternative is extinction, not just for humans or the coalition, but for every thinking being in this galaxy. The shepherds don't discriminate. The negotiations continued for days, broadcast to the entire galaxy. The truth of humanity's survival became undeniable. The evidence of the shepherd threat grew overwhelming. And slowly, painfully, the coalition began to accept what they had to do. The formal ceremony took place on Sanctuary Prime's observation deck, with Earth's sun visible as a distant star through specialized viewers. Billions watched as the coalition leadership stood before humanity's representatives. Hierarch Zen spoke first, his bioluminescent form pulsing with formal patterns of deep regret. We, the Galactic Coalition, acknowledge our crimes against humanity. We committed genocide. We destroyed worlds. We murdered billions. There can be no excuse, only acknowledgement and amended action. One by one, each species representative spoke their formal apology. When they finished, Director Webb responded, "We accept your acknowledgement. We cannot forget, but we choose to forgive. Not for your sake, but for our own, and for the sake of all who will face what comes next." The treaty signing was swift and comprehensive. Humanity reclaimed its territorial rights. Coalition technology would be upgraded with human innovations. Joint research stations would be established to study the shepherd threat. And most symbolically, Earth itself would be restored using terraforming techniques humanity had perfected in exile.